The rain was pounding on the roof like it was trying to break through, mirroring the storm inside me. "You're nothing but a useless failure." My father's voice echoed in my ears as he shoved my suitcase out the door. "Go live in the streets if that's all you're good for." I stood there on the porch, soaked to the bone, my heart shattering into pieces I didn't know how to pick up. How had it come to this? My own parents, the people who raised me, turning their backs like I was trash. The cold wind whipped my face, and I clutched my bag tighter, the zipper digging into my palm. Shock numbed me, but deep down, a flicker of hurt burned hot. Why me? Why now? Before that fateful night, life in our small suburban home felt like a fragile routine, held together by unspoken rules and forced smiles. I was the middle child, 22 years old, working part-time at the local diner while studying online for my business degree. Mornings started with the aroma of Mom's strong coffee brewing in the kitchen, the percolator gurgling like an old friend. Dad would sit at the table, newspaper in hand, grumbling about the headlines, his calloused fingers from years at the factory tapping impatiently. "Pass the toast, kid," he'd say, his voice gruff but familiar. My older brother, Jake, had moved out years ago, successful in the city, while my younger sister, Lily, was the golden child, straight A's, always pleasing them. I helped around the house, cooking dinners sometimes, the sizzle of onions in the pan filling the air with comfort. We'd eat together, conversations light about work or school, but I always sensed their disappointment in me, like an undercurrent. "When are you going to get serious?" Mom would ask, her eyes tired, stirring her tea with a clink of the spoon. I loved them deeply, tried to make them proud, but my struggles with focus and odd jobs made me feel like the weak link in our family chain. Lately, though, something shifted, subtle at first, like a crack in the foundation you ignore until it widens. Dad's sighs grew heavier when I'd come home from a shift, the door creaking as I entered. "Another late night flipping burgers?" he'd mutter, not looking up from the TV, the remote clicking in his hand. Mom started leaving notes on the fridge, reminders to pay my share of the bills, her handwriting sharper than usual. I brushed it off as stress. Dad's factory had cut hours and money was tight. But then came the small jabs. "Jake never needed handouts," Mom said one evening over dinner, the fork scraping her plate echoing in the silence. I felt a pang, but smiled it away, helping clear the dishes, the warm soapy water soothing my hands. Yet doubt crept in. Were they resenting me? I tried harder, picking up extra shifts, the greasy smell of fries clinging to my clothes. Still, their conversations hushed when I entered rooms, glances exchanged like secrets. I told myself it was nothing, just family quirks, but the tension built, quiet and insistent, like a clock ticking toward midnight. That night, everything unraveled in the space of 10 terrible minutes. I came home late from closing the diner, the smell of fryer oil still in my hair. The house was quiet, too quiet. No TV murmur, no clink of dishes. I slipped off my shoes in the hallway, the floorboards cool under my socks, and walked toward the kitchen for a glass of water. That's when I heard them. Dad's voice, low and hard. "We've carried him long enough. He's 22. No real job, no plan. He's dragging us all down." Mom answered softer, but not soft enough. "I know, but he's our son. Where will he go? Where he belongs?" Dad snapped. "Out. We've got Lily's college fund to think about. Jake sends money when he can. This boy he's just taking. Useless." My stomach dropped like I'd been punched. I stood frozen in the shadow of the doorway, glass trembling in my hand. Then came the worst part. Mom sighed, long and defeated. "I found the bank statement today. He used the joint account again, $40 for textbooks he never showed us." I told him we're done covering extras. Dad's chair scraped back. "That's it. Tomorrow, we tell him to pack. If he can't contribute, he can't stay." I backed away slowly, heart hammering so loud I thought they'd hear it. The hallway light flickered once like it knew. I crept upstairs, closed my bedroom door without a sound, and sat on the edge of my bed staring at the wall. The posters I'd put up in high school, bands I no longer listened to, looked childish now. My throat burned. They weren't just disappointed. They were done. And they'd already decided I was nothing. I didn't sleep. I lay there replaying every small kindness I'd ever done. The dinners I cooked when Mom was tired, the times I mowed the lawn without being asked, the nights I stayed up helping Lily with math even though I was barely passing myself. None of it mattered. In their eyes, I was the deficit, the mistake. By 4 in the morning, I couldn't pretend anymore. I pulled my old duffel from under the bed, the zipper loud in the silence. I packed only what I could carry. Clothes, laptop, charger, the small photo of all 5 of us from Jake's graduation when we still looked happy. I left the rest. My childhood trophies, my books, the quilt Grandma made me when I was 10. Those things belonged to a version of me they no longer recognized. When dawn came, gray and heavy, I carried the bag downstairs. They were already in the kitchen. Dad at the table with coffee. Mom standing by the sink, arms crossed like she was bracing herself. I set the bag by the door. I heard you last night, I said. My voice sounded thin, like it belonged to someone else. Dad didn't look surprised. Mom flinched. Then you know, Dad said flatly. We can't keep doing this. I wasn't asking to stay, I told them. I just wanted to say goodbye. Mom's eyes filled. Baby, we didn't mean. You meant every word. I cut in, quieter than I expected. You called me useless, a failure. You said go live in the streets. So that's what I'm doing. Dad stood up. Don't be dramatic. We're trying to help you grow up. I looked at him, really looked. The lines around his eyes deeper than I remembered. The gray in his hair more noticeable. For a second, I saw the man who used to carry me on his shoulders at the county fair. Then I remembered the shove of the suitcase in my imagination. The way he'd already decided I wasn't worth keeping. I've been trying to grow up in a house that keeps telling me I'm too small for it, I said. Maybe I'll do better somewhere else. Mom stepped forward, reaching out. Please, let's talk. I shook my head. You already talked. Without me. I picked up the bag. The strap bit into my shoulder. I love you both, I said, and my voice cracked on the last word. I always will. But I can't keep proving my worth to people who've already decided I don't have any. I opened the front door. Rain was still falling, softer now, like it was tired too. Dad spoke one last time. You walk out that door. Don't expect to walk back in. I looked back at him. I already knew that. Then I stepped into the wet morning and let the door close behind me. I didn't go far that first day. Just walked to the edge of our neighborhood. Rain dripping from the hood of my jacket, until I reached the old bus shelter on Maple Street. The bench was damp, graffiti scratched into the metal armrest. I sat there for hours, phone in my hand, staring at the screen like it might tell me what to do next. No one called. No texts from Mom saying come back. Just silence. Eventually I opened the rideshare app one used for extra cash sometimes and booked the cheapest ride I could afford. 20 minutes across town to the only person I thought might still see me as more than a burden. My brother Jake. He opened his apartment door in sweatpants and a faded college hoodie. Hair messy like he'd just woken up even though it was past noon. His eyes went from my soaked duffel to my face, and something softened in his expression. Jesus, man, he said quietly. Come in. I stepped inside. His place smelled like coffee and clean laundry. Simple, adult, nothing like the heavy quiet of our parents' house. He didn't ask questions right away, just handed me a towel, then a mug of black coffee so hot it burned my tongue. We sat on his couch, the city noise muffled through the window. I told him everything, word for word what I'd overheard. The suitcase, the goodbye. He listened without interrupting, jaw tight. When I finished, he leaned forward, elbows on knees. They said that to your face? He asked. Pretty much. He exhaled hard through his nose. They've been saying versions of it behind your back for years. I just didn't think they'd ever do it. I looked down at the mug. They did. Jake rubbed his face. Look, you can crash here as long as you need. Couch is yours. We'll figure the rest out. I nodded, throat too tight to speak. For the first time in months, I didn't feel like I was begging for space to exist. Word travels fast in small towns. By the following weekend, people knew. My old high school friend Mia texted first. Heard what happened. That's messed up. You okay? Then the diner manager called to check on me. Turns out Mom had called in to say I wasn't coming back. A few neighbors saw me walking with my bag that morning and put two and two together. Whispers started at the grocery store, at church, at Jake's softball game when our uncle showed up and asked him point blank if it was true. Jake didn't sugarcoat it. He told people exactly what our parents had done. Not with anger, just fact. They told him he was useless and kicked him out. He's staying with me now. The reaction wasn't loud or explosive. It was quieter, colder. Mom's book club friends stopped inviting her. Dad's buddies at the factory gave him the side eye during breaks. Lily came home from school one day in tears because classmates asked if her brother was homeless now. Our parents suddenly found themselves explaining badly. I heard later from Jake that Mom cried in the kitchen one night, saying she never meant for it to go this far. Dad stayed silent, stubborn as ever. But the damage was done. The family portrait they tried so hard to keep perfect had cracked wide open, and everyone could see the fracture. Months passed. I got a full-time job at a small logistics company. Nothing glamorous but steady pay, benefits, a future. I enrolled in night classes again, this time in person. Jake and I became closer than we'd ever been. Late-night talks over pizza turned into real conversations about what family actually means. I didn't go back home. Not for holidays, not for birthdays. The door stayed closed because they never opened it. But one afternoon, almost a year later, my phone buzzed with a text from Mom. Just 4 words. I'm sorry. We were wrong. I stared at it for a long time. The kitchen light in Jake's apartment caught the screen, made the words glow. I didn't reply right away. Forgiveness isn't a switch you flip. It's a slow thawing. Eventually I typed back, I know. I'm doing okay. Take care. That was enough. For now. I still carry the hurt sometimes. Like a stone in my pocket I forget is there until I reach for change. But it's smaller now. Lighter. I've learned that love doesn't always come from the people who are supposed to give it first. Sometimes it comes from the ones who choose to see you when others won't. And I've learned this. No one gets to decide your worth. Not even the people who brought you into the world. You decide. Day by day. Step by step. Until one morning you wake up and realize the street you once stood on in the rain isn't the end of your story. It was only the beginning of knowing who you really are. If you've ever been told you're not enough. If someone who should have protected you chose to push you away instead. Hear me when I say, their words don't define you. Their door closing doesn't lock you out of a good life. You are not a failure for surviving what they couldn't give. You are proof that strength doesn't always shout. Sometimes it just keeps walking. Have you ever had to rebuild after the people closest to you tore you down? How did you find your way forward? Tell me in the comments. Your story matters. And if this touched something in you, subscribe to Broken Trust Stories. More real hearts, more real healing, right here.